already. I'm Liz Keefe. I'm the developmental English faculty with Kate Babbitt. And our CAS department is College Advancement Studies, so it's developmental education. We have math and English housed in the same department at Gateway, I know as Housatonic does.
Yeah.
Right, so we really work together with the students. We call ourselves not only instructors, but we are counselors and social workers as well, as many of us are. And so we developed this program, and let's see if that works. We developed the English Boot Camp program to target the students who are at the lowest transitional level as a response to PA 1240. And we had to figure out how we could do this in such a short amount of time, in just a 3-week period. And I won't lie, it's been a challenge because we have to really balance that reading and writing, vocabulary, just getting students used to the college environment in general. And so we used the, there you go. So we use a computer program to supplement what we teach in the classroom, and it's been relatively successful for us. And we'll tell you a little bit about that later. What we all know, I think. Well, why don't I ask where you're from and what you teach? Some of you, I don't know.
Yeah, Andrew Pelletier, coordinate the Center for Academic Progress here at Housatonic, and we do a lot of stuff like this.
I'm Rosemary Rodriguez. I was an English adjunct at Northwestern teaching the OMAG 6, and now I'm the PA 1240 coordinator at Breakout.
Lauren?
I'm Lauren O'Leary. These are my colleagues in English, developmental English at Gateway.
And I'm Mark. I'm the academic teacher.
I'm Donna Boncadas. I think from Middlesex Community College.
On behalf of Monster, I'm the instructional support specialist at Middlesex, so I teach our permanent research.
Oh, you're teaching? Yeah, okay. We have an ISS in our department also, but she does the counseling, really the counseling. Yeah.
John Lane, counselor.
And
I'm a work studies.
yes, who rigged the camera and got it set up here. Thank you. Okay. So it's important to note that, our students do take the AccuPlacer. The AccuPlacer is not the end-all and be-all. We also encourage our faculty members to take the AccuPlacer exam as well, so that they can see the kind of skills that these students are being asked to exhibit. But we also have been really successful with our NSAR program, New Student Advising and Registration, to really talk to students about their high school grades, their high school experiences, talk to them one-on-one about their experiences with reading and writing, how much they have read and have written. And so there are a lot of other factors involved besides the AccuPlacer. We can also tell through personal interviews with students how motivated they are to get to the program and how well they manage their time. And that's really key because it's not just about the reading and writing skills. So we offer this program through our GREAT Center, which is our Resource Education and Training Center. And we give students, Caitlin Koss is our contact for that program and for the GREAT Center boot camps. We also offer them a course in math. And every student is given one of these trifold pamphlets, so they know, it just spells it out for them. They can leave campus. If they're not sure when they're going to register for it, you can go to the next screen. These are the sessions that we're offering right now through August. We do have one session that runs as a 6-week session. Actually, that didn't fill, so that didn't run. But the rest of the sessions, students are registering for now. We have staggered sessions, which has worked out well for us. So the program is growing, and the program is really growing because we have that support from the GREAT Center staff, and we're trying to market it, better.
Yes, okay. All right, so when students decide to register for the boot camps, we stress to them that first of all, it's an opportunity for improvement It's non-repeatable, so if for some reason they don't finish the course successfully, they can't come back a second time. Their progress will be tracked and recorded. I always stress to students that it's still fairly a new program, so we're really curious to see what they enjoyed about it, what they didn't like about it, and to see the difference between they take their first diagnostic test and the second, and of course the retake of the accuplacer. We explained to them that it's 30 to 40 hours of instruction. You need to be there. It's only 3 weeks, but we stress it saves them 15 weeks in a regular class for a 6-credit course. It also saves them 6 credits of money, whether it's be theirs or financial aid. We also stress the respect. Sometimes we have a little bit of an issue with that. Persistence and progress, not grades. The math department is very, very strict about the 70%. I tend to stress that as well, although the English is a little more flexible. I think we sort of have to be with English. So as long as they're there every day and they're really doing their best, then more likely than not, they're allowed to take the accuplacer a second time. And more likely than not, they will bump themselves out of that 6-credit course into the 4 or the ALP program. And of course, pencil and paper, homework, cell phone, and of course we have the computer, so please no eating or drinking. Exiting, and again, once again, regardless of their test scores, we need them to understand they've improved. The majority of them improve regardless of what the accuplacer says, because there's a writing and a reading component to it. Let's see, what else? We talk about, yes, so the familiarity with school. A lot of them are kind of shocked when they get to college and they realize that this is not high school anymore. And so it's study and time management skills, computer skills, and of course, once again, the attendance we really, really stress. The research has shown that the students who move through the developmental courses fairly quickly are more likely to graduate, which we pretty much know. And again, we're stressing to save the time and the money. The very first class is actually very long, and it's very tedious. But what that is because some of them are coming to us being out of school for more than 20 years, so just logging onto the computer is a task. So we have to teach them how to log into the computer. We use Applia.
Show them where IT is and how to reset their password.
And that could take, oh boy, that half an hour, 45 minutes. And then, of course, then we have to get them to log on to Applia, and they have their own individual codes as well as the course key. And we try to do that as a group, but that doesn't always work out as much as we'd like it to. So once again, we'll show you the orientation survey. They also complete the diagnostic test, so that's given through Applia, and it usually takes about an hour, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little more. And the majority of us stress to them, it's very important, please don't just rush through this test. And I kind of sell it to them that they will have less homework. It's a SMART test, the better they do on the diagnostic, the less they have to do outside the class.
Right, because the diagnostic for Applia will give them all an individualized study plan, so if they're strong in a certain area, they won't get any more review assignments for that area, so they keep getting hit with the parts that they're not strong with for reinforcement outside of class. Also, that we have an older version of the workbook that we give them, so we give them that the first day of class, so they can look through that. We have a reading and writing supplement, so they know, of course, the first day, the next, they get the syllabus as well, right? They get this course out. Oh no, I had myself.
That's okay. Because we'd like to know where they're coming from, and this sort of gets them to open up to us a little bit, we ask them to fill out this survey here, and of course ask them how long they've been in and out of school, if English, a lot of times they'll tell us if English is not their first language, how frequently do they read outside of class, and we ask them what types of material they read, because oftentimes they don't think they read at all. And I tell them, aside from text messages, because those don't count, what else do you read? And they do, they read more than they realize. The second part of the survey is what are their strengths and weaknesses, roughly how many hours do they plan to be enrolled in college, because that often affects when we go to place them and register, and which of the following best describes their attitude towards study. And again, it fluctuates. And usually they're very honest, so it does help us sort of gauge the class. Yes, sometimes too honest. The number 4 and 5, more times than not, we'll get, I don't have any writing strengths, right? And all I have is weaknesses. So I let them fill this out on their own, and then I'll go to the board and I'll tell them, what are some things you need to do to be able to write and read and effectively. And they'll start naming off these things that they didn't even think about. And I say to them, listen, so now I want you to go back to, number 4, and I want you to tell me what some of your strengths are. Because you're here, you've earned your spot here, you obviously have strengths. And so that's the first thing that we sort of get them to be motivated by, when they really take a good look at themselves. And then this is the contract. Research has shown, right, if we can get students or children to put their name on a piece of paper, they tend to take it a little more seriously. They want you to respect, they want the respect. They want to hold up true to their word. And it just reiterates that they plan to be in class on time. They will try to improve, not just kind of, rush through the assignments. Of course, respect, once again. They will bring their reading booklet, pen, paper, so on and so forth. And of course, we don't want to see the cell phones. And that's pretty much it. And then we get a move on. So the first week, and again, so it's only 3 weeks, and they meet 5 days a week for 3 hours. Like I said, it's very rapid, the first class. So we cover the diagnostic. Usually by that time, they head on out because everybody's finishing it at different times. And then we also start the very first week is they have to start producing the narrative paragraph. And we also cover the vocabulary, simple sentence, and then we start working with the aplia. And of course, introduction to MLA, which some of them have had, but the majority have not through high school. What else would you like to add? Anything for the first one?
All supplemented, the narration, the narrative, next week.
Right, so the second week, they have to have their rough draft on Monday. And then, of course, we want to start getting them into the habit of revising their work, not just writing something and handing it in. So they have to have a revised paragraph on Thursday. In the meantime, we'll discuss, where they can improve, where they can, lengthen their paragraph, add more details, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, then the aplia, and find main ideas, fragments and run-ons.
Yeah, we found, and we use Cengage textbooks. We still use Evergreen for our 15-week course. And so we really talked amongst ourselves and figured, which of the chapters that we really need to hit on, the non-negotiable chapters, and how do we start and how do we build from there. And so that's why we've developed this kind of layout, because time is really of the essence. The other thing too is that because these all take place in the writing labs, in the classrooms, if they say, because they're petrified about writing their first essay, and that's why we start with a narrative, because everybody likes to talk about themselves. And they'll sit there and they'll say, I can't, I don't know how to begin. And so we don't let them use that as an excuse. We'll say, there's the computer, just put everything up there that's in your brain right now, and then it's there, and then you can work with it, because you can't use I don't know where to start as an excuse. You have to, begin the process. So that's what's really great about the computer lab as well. So.
And then, of course, our final week, week 3, it usually runs, like I said, Monday through Friday. So if it's a typical session, on Thursday they would retake the the diagnostic. And most of us, what we like to do is we will print out their very first diagnostic, and then we'll print out the second diagnostic. So once again, regardless of their AccuPlacer scores, they can see essentially where they have improved. And most of them, improve in all of the areas. But even if they haven't improved greatly, or if they didn't, at least they have some sort of idea. And it's visual proof that the course was worth it. It was worth coming in for those 40 hours, giving up 3 weeks of their lives. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the final day of the AccuPlacer, they retake the AccuPlacer. And then the boot camp instructors will come in that day as well, and they'll work with Caitlin, and some of the other counseling people will take a look at their revised AccuPlacer scores. And not only will we place them in their English or math course, we also help them pick out the rest of their schedule. So they really walk out of there with an idea of what the semester holds as they progress.
Okay. So we have some slides up here about, sample. How many of you are familiar with AccuPlacer programs and writing labs and those kinds of things? So we do have reading and writing exercises that we give them. We pick and choose from the program, what we think works best, and it's always changing. Instructors can tailor it to their individual needs, and we have discussions about that. But we have to begin with the topic sentence, the main idea, supporting details. We hammer them with those terms right away so that they really understand, paragraph structure. That's where it all begins. Begins with the sentence. Paragraph to essay. So, and then, this is a really important program too, because AccuPlacer gives them instructions. I mean, that's what we find with students too. Students don't read instructions, and I have to say I'm guilty of that sometimes too. I went to the wrong classroom for this presentation because I didn't read the book, but I thought it said 135. So really, they are trained, their brain is trained to really read instructions and to really do some critical reading. It doesn't seem like that's what this is at first glance, but they are really looking at, or building on their critical reading skills. It really does make a difference where that comma goes. It really does. Also, if you go to the next, there's an explanation before each unit. So we go over this in class, comma usage. We talk about it, we model it, and then typically they'll have time at the end of class, or they'll have time to do homework, at the end of class, or they might have some work at home as well. But the nice thing about this program, or any program like this, we're not marketing Apply or Cengage, this is just what works for us, is that the explanations are very clear, for the most part. So they will get this instruction, and then the next page will be, okay, so here is a recipe. Here is a recipe, there's a bunch of commas in there. What do I do? Again, they have to read the directions. Which of the following sentences select all that apply? I mean, you'd be surprised how many students just choose one and move on to the next. The other nice thing about this program is they get three chances to take these tests. So if they don't do well the first time, they have 2 more chances, and there's always explanations for wrong answers. So they're not just trying to figure it out on their own. Conjunctive adverbs, subordination and coordination, one of my favorite topics. They have to answer questions, and really what we find with developmental students is that they know conjunctive adverbs, but they don't know what they mean. This program does a nice job of explaining. We use however here instead of, another, indeed, or, to understand what they mean in context. Okay, so here's the narrative. Again, they look at sample narratives. Again, they are short, but they can look at narrative paragraphs because they're going to be writing a narrative essay. So they have models that they can use to draw from. Explanations. This is what Kate was talking about before. We were kind of chuckling about this yesterday because these scores are really high. The developmental student scores are not usually this high, but it's a sample. So they'll take the test and then they get immediate feedback. So they can say, oh, organization and coherence, I'm doing pretty well there, but punctuation, I need to work on that. They have in their hand, their strengths and weaknesses, so they know. And then at the end of the semester, the end of the 3 weeks, when they take that second diagnostic, they always see improvement. Mm-hmm. I mean, really, unless they were really, not paying any attention to the second test. But we see marked improvement, and then they can drill down into that paragraph structure, sentence structure, and see where their individual strengths are in those broader areas. So it's very effective.
Okay, so the last day we also asked there, because like I said, we stressed on the first day, it's the pilot program still, we're still tweaking it. So we really want their feedback on how they liked the course. And we won't go through all of these. But overall, most of them agree or strongly agree that their grammar skills have improved, their writing skills have improved. Their study skills are a little more across the board, but it's still quite a large percentage. Most of them found Apply easy to understand and use. I always tell them it's going to mess with you a little bit. You have to read everything very, very carefully. They also found...
It's like the AccuPlacer.
Yeah, absolutely. They're like, Mrs. B, it says the same exact thing. I'm like, no, take a closer look. The online homework they found was beneficial. Even though they weren't always big fans, they did find, that it was useful. The reading homework from the packet, they also liked. Without this, I think we'd be lost. I think the actual workbook really helps them succeed. And barely any, what do we have, like more than 70% didn't think, that thought that, sorry, hardly anybody agreed that it was too long. Some of them actually said they would have liked it longer, preferred it to be a longer session. And, but many of them, I think there's one in here about the hours. They thought that 3 hours, I felt like 3 hours was too long. Some of them wanted, you'll see in the comments, I'm getting ahead of myself, I'm sorry. Some of them would have preferred 4 hours, believe it or not, with 2 for practice, 2 for online, and then a little break in the middle. What else do we want to?
Oh, the homework. We're looking at the homework and trying to figure out, these are students who, a lot of them have a lot of other responsibilities outside of the classroom. And so that's why this class, this boot camp session, they do some work outside of class, but it is tailored so that they can do an awful lot of it in the class. A few slides before, they can come in early, they can come in half an hour early, classrooms are open, they can stay late, the instructors are there for individual consultation. So it is kind of a nice, neat package every day. You know what's expected of you. Some of them were really, putting in, I don't know how truthful some of it is, but, 13 to 16 hours maybe, and then we talk about why that was, we needed so much extra time.
One semester I taught the 5:30 to 8:30 in the evening, and there was one day, 9:45, security said, listen, you guys have to go. They just weren't leaving, they just wanted to finish their aplia, and they wanted to do what they could. Oh, so here are the,
All right.
I'll take,
Want to switch?
no, I'll take care of this.
Okay.
Okay.
It's really fancy.
Yes,
Liz,
yes.
can we ask questions?
Oh, sure.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to one of your questions. Could you go back one screen?
The left arrow?
You can, it's okay.
Come up, Tony.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
When you say, I think I could have succeeded in the total online course,
Oh, good question.
37% of them said yes, which is actually probably not true. They might be that's hard. I think they're misjudging themselves, because I think the reason it's working is because they're helping. I wonder if you might want to say, I think I would have learned as much in an online course.
Oh,
It might be a different answer, because then they may say, no, I don't think I would. But succeed, yeah, I
Yes.
could test this.
good
It
point.
might tell you more.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yes, absolutely. And it's funny because in some of the comments.
Because they do say, look, the next one says, obviously 90% of them think they need an instructor at a class.
You're right.
And so then to think that I do find an online course is like, I think if you said more, although both are about success, but I would use the word more about, would you learn as much?
Yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a very good point. Because you're right, they're almost contradicting themselves when
Yeah.
they're answering both of those
Right,
questions. But it's funny because in some of these comments, so they liked working with the workbook in addition to Applia because they could visually see everything, which we hear about a lot. They didn't like the deadlines on the online homework,
have to have deadlines.
which is a given, yes.
Right.
But there, in Applia, you're able to change the due dates, so like for our 5:30,
That's
8:30.
another example why they wouldn't succeed in an online course.
Exactly.
Definitely.
But here, this one says, I enjoyed having a teacher. I really enjoyed learning from and listening to. Oh, and these are actual, we copied these word for word from the surveys, so you might be able to see that. Homework due time interfered with my job. Sometimes they rushed through their work. But let's see, time allotted was
And then we
great.
kept hearing that, the time allotted for the overall course was really
Yes.
short, So, and the reading, and, I have to add to this too, that we've chosen, it's primarily adjuncts who are teaching these boot camp courses throughout the summer. And we really chose adjuncts, we really, who knew how to advise students, who knew how to just have really, really effective one-on-one conversations with them. And so that's a huge part of this. So when they're saying, again and again, I enjoyed having the teacher, we know the teacher, we see the teachers who are doing, the teachers who aren't as effective, we know that too. And it's so, so important because it's their first point of contact. And we don't want it to be their last point of contact, So,
And the
yeah.
boot camp instructors, oftentimes their courses they start to fill because of the boot camps, because the students already have that
Right,
connection with
that
somebody
connection.
on campus.
Okay, so the summary of results. So since 2013, so we have results calculated through the end of fall 2015. So 68% of students overall completed the course. Most students increased their active placer test scores. I just want to say something about that. Some students did not increase. Some students maybe went down a couple of points, and they were really discouraged by that. But that's why it's nice to have that other APLIA, the other APLIA test, and we have their writing. We have 3 pieces of writing. So we say, so really, you're not a good test taker. You have, and we know that, but we also know that we have these other ways to measure your success. So if their active placer scores didn't go up to the next level, we had a conversation with them. Some of them we said, really, you need to stay back, take English 066. Or, no, you really think that you can succeed.
Can I ask you about that, Archer? I'm sorry, but is that most students of the 68%?
Most students of the 68%, because the
Increase their
68%, the others, registered.
No, but I just want to make sure
Right.
that the 32% probably did increase their active placer. The 32% didn't complete.
They didn't complete at all.
They probably didn't
Right.
increase their active placer test.
So, yes,
Okay.
yes.
They didn't get a retest, right?
I just was
They
confused.
don't get a
The
retest.
non-completer.
Right. So most of that 68% of the students who completed increased their scores. And then 76% of students completing the course placed on transitional, the lowest level. And we have that our intensive, our mid-level, most of them we see more and more as the program goes on, are placing into that, what we call English 091, which is an intensive class that they take before the ALP or the 101. But 12% in the ALP, and then 4% placed directly into English 101. So the average increase that we saw across the board since the beginning, about 12 to 15 points overall in reading and writing scores. So we ran this very, very small pilot in summer of 2013. It's kind of, we put it together in a very short period of time, and we got 18 students to complete the course. So these stats are from those original 18 that we've tracked. And we are still tracking all of them, but these were the first. So 31% of that 18 passed English 102 or higher. And of the 18, 2 have graduated, 10 are currently enrolled, and 6 are no longer enrolled. So Kate just looked into those 6.
This is my favorite slide, actually.
Yes. So of those 6, 2 of them absolutely, failed out of school, and the others were in good standing, and they just didn't come back.
We don't know if
So-
they transferred or...
Right, we just don't know. We just don't have data on them. And then we have more data. This is from 2014 until now. We had a larger group in 2014 and then a larger in 2015 again. So it's interesting if you look at these statistics. 33% of students who remained in English 066. So the students who did not successfully complete the boot camp and then went into English 066 got a C or better, which would move them on. 67%, so you see 67% from 2014. And then if you look at that same statistic from 2015, 40% of students. And so we were talking about those numbers. Well, the students from 2014 had a little bit more time to complete English 091 successfully. So that could explain that, I mean,
It also-
numbers are numbers, I don't know.
And the boot camps almost doubled, so the number of boot camps we offered.
Yes. So we expected to see a slight decline in the success percentages. Yeah, but 75% of, from that first group, 100% of the students that came out of that group had that confidence when they were placed in ALP, the ALP 101, who passed with a C or better. That's a great step. And then 75% who just did not take the workshop component of the ALP. 75% is still pretty good, But again, we do see from 2015, those numbers are a little lower. Have these students taken time off? Have these students maybe, who knows? But again, we are still tracking this semester by semester. So the students who are not successful in that boot camp, the students who don't make it through, the students who they test, you can see that they're struggling. 3 weeks is just not enough time for some students. So we developed this 6-credit intensive course that has a whole bunch of stuff in it. It's got the reading, it's got the writing, it's got the self-efficacy skills. We used to have, I know like Housatonic still has, and other colleges still have, we used to separate reading and writing, so they were 3 and 3. And so to put that all together, plus add this scholarship component, which I'll talk about, was a difficult undertaking. Can you just go back to that
I'm
slide
sorry,
before?
yes.
So you can see what they're expected, what the expectations are. This is our catalog description, and of course this will all be, we're going to...
Overhauled.
I don't know if it's going to be overhauled. I mean, I can say it's going to be, you can get a copy of this, because we put it on the site. But, yeah, we always are working to improve it. The writing, the reading, and then I'll talk about the students visit all of these different places on campus. So they know people, they know faces, and actually the departments, the members of the departments come to the classrooms to give presentations. So we've had a lot of involvement from different departments, and they've been wonderful in coming to our classrooms. So, I think I said that. So students, we have, okay, here we go. So the very first week of class, we have students come into the classroom and talk about student life, how to become more involved. They give them student tours. They just become familiar faces to the students in the classroom. A lot of times the students don't know where our different departments are in the building. So they know the first week of school or the second week of school where all of those places are. Student Accessibility Services comes and gives presentations to the classroom to talk about the accommodations process. And as a result, a lot of the students then seek help because they know, here's our office, Same with Student Development and Counseling. They come in and give some great presentations on time management, study skills, anxiety and test taking, student conduct. These are all things, study after study has shown. Why do students fail out? Why do students not come back? Because they don't have these skills. They don't know how to utilize their time. They don't know how to study. They're so anxious, they shut down. So there are a lot of things going on. Okay? There's other stuff there, student workforce
Oh, I'm
development.
sorry.
Am I taking too much?
No, I'm sorry. My apologies.
So we call our Student Workforce Development Department the GRADE Center, which stands for Gateways.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I threw you off.
Anyway, it's
Yes.
a great. Thank you. Okay. So a very important part of this class, we were just in the non-credit presentation, Michelle and I were over that, talking about non-credit offerings. A lot of students who come to Gateway don't know about this great center. So they're given presentations, staff from the Great Center comes in and gives presentations. Also, right at the beginning, we give them etiquette instruction through the Great Center, and because we've all gotten those emails, Yo Prof, Lynn, Lynn, what did I miss today, or whatever. So that's one of the things that we try to set up the etiquette aspect right from the start. Career services, academic advisors, they can actually register for their classes for the next semester. We usually have one class session where they can do that around mid-semester, so they know what they're doing. And then we've been very successful. We have the Umbrella Center for Domestic Violence, an outside mental health and domestic abuse center in New Haven. A woman come in and present on that, and that's very, very a powerful presentation. That's one of the things that we've been very successful. And of course, the librarians going in, doing research, finding out about research.
Okay, so some of our educational components, the 066 is of course grammar and punctuation instruction. We use the Evergreen textbook for that. They have to read shorter nonfiction readings. They have to respond to those, so they are demonstrating critical thinking. They also have to read one fictional novel. To date, we've used The Kite Runner, The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian, and The Short and Tragic Life of Robert Peace. And then helps them identify theme, audience structure. Oftentimes, their research essay will revolve around one of the themes they find in the fictional books. Vocabulary, of course, journals. They have to produce at least 3 substantially revised, polished essays, as well as their research essay, and everything is provided to us in a portfolio. Also supplementals, we like YouTube and TED Talks. On YouTube, we were showing interviews with Sherman Alexie, and the students really loved that because then they could see him and they could, like I said, they could hear his lisp and they really understood where he was coming from. So, yeah.
Again, learning outcomes, they learn how to navigate campus, on campus. We are juggling we are giving them a lot of information. I think the biggest challenge that I personally find in teaching this course is again, balancing the time that you spend reading and writing. I mean, to me, of course you can't separate them, but it's sometimes difficult when you find sometimes that you have to spend more time really focusing on the critical reading skills and maybe not as much time as you want to on writing skills. So it's a balance. It's a balance, and it's not perfect, but it's a constant emotion forward. Right?
Absolutely. And then they have to pass with a C or better.
They have to pass
before they move on.
So success rates for English 066. So since we started this program in spring 2014, 367 students enrolled, 214 successfully completed it. And then, the stats go down from there, but out of that original 367, 100 we've been able to track so far have successfully completed subsequent courses. The rest, we do have repeaters. You can repeat them twice. And after that, then we have to have a conversation. Okay. So ideally, now the students in English 066 go to the ALP, so they still get the embedded support. Very few of them, sometimes on recommendation, maybe 2 or 3 of them really per semester.
Yes.
Go directly to English 101, but the goal is for them to go to the ALP 101.
I won't do that too soon.
So I think that's what. Do you have any questions for us? Any questions?
Yeah, the summer course, is that the boot camp one? I presume the students paid for that, right?
Oh, no.
Oh, no, we didn't mention
I'm
that.
sorry, I was.
It's non-credit and it's free, but nobody asked that, we didn't say it, and
No.
they asked the question.
How do you afford that?
Yes.
BOR.
BOR?
Yes,
Because, we would love to do something in summer.
right,
But,
Yeah.
we would need the students to pay.
right. Right, and
So-
well, that's,
Could Southern apply for a grant as well? Or-
I guess, is this money that's set aside, Mark, for remedial work?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That came out of the 1240.
Yes.
Yes, oh, that money.
Yeah,
Right.
it's ratio based,
I could-
depending on how large your campus is.
yeah.
Speaking of creating 1240, part of the reason for creating 1240 is that we're supposed to be able to shorten the time from starting school and getting through the gateway course. What's your sense of that? Can we improve the time?
I think the jury's still out. I do think that our success rates from English 066, our successful completion rates are far higher than when we used to offer it separately as English 043 and English 073 reading and writing. It's really difficult because you're comparing 2 different things though, because sometimes students would pass the reading component and fail the writing component. But I think looking at those success rates from the 066, that's pretty promising. That, 57%. That's definitely higher than but, the problem that we have, how many of them they can successfully complete that, and then they go to 101, and then they, then they go, we don't know where they go, so.
Related to that too, one of the things I'm thinking about, we talked about subsequent years of 14 and 15. Have you done any comparisons to similar students pre-12?
We have, but again, because the courses were separated, reading and writing courses were separated, the numbers weren't, we know overall that the percentage is better so far, but it's that comparison is difficult. We have our institutional researchers.
Up until K-12 40, Gateway, I think we were maybe the only campus that had a separate reading and writing curriculum, right or wrong.
No, well,
You know,
Housatonic
It was
still
not-
does.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, and we really recast that, and I think that has dramatic impact. We had co-requisites at Gateway at the independent reading and writing curriculum, but we often had a lot of students who couldn't do it because they were working. So a student would come in and choose the writing class or the reading class rather than
Right.
the writing class. It defeated that. I think those students.
Now,
just defeat
because
the
it's
whole
all
purpose.
together, it's
You
4
need
days a
you
week
need
too.
an
Most of the
integrated
classes are 4 days a week.
Yeah.
3 days longer, it's difficult. It can't be a 2-day-a-week class. It would just be too much.
And demographically, I worked at Manchester here for a few years, and the English 043, in the old days, English 043 was the lowest level class. Manchester was the largest school in the system at that time, and they on average had 3 sections of 043 in a given semester. What did we remember? Probably 15.
It was in the teens.
Probably 15. So that's the difference in what I call the fate we embrace. Gateway being an urban campus, and the students we are serving, we're serving on much more, pronounced much more at-risk population. So this is incredibly important. I really want to applaud both of you in your leadership, because even if we're not obviously over with this yet, we're going to continue to work on it.
Still a lot of work.
This is our future here for Gateway, of being able to help this cohort, because and Housatonic, you may have some of the same parallels being an urban campus.
Yeah.
That is huge, but it's not the same.
Do you still offer academic success, the
Yes,
FYE
with
program at
DS
Southern?
99 academic skills, it's morphing into a freshman seminar starting in the fall, so it's going to be more of a
Right, and the
traditional
difficulty
FYE.
that we have, so it's a freshman seminar, but
Yeah.
how does that work with the 60 credit tap? That's the problem that we're having.
That's outside my-
FYE at Southern is a great course for students. We don't have the time, so we have to, shove it all into this with the reading and the writing and then scholarship skills. So that is really a
So,
challenge.
but this is this is transitional still, the 066?
Well,
Yeah, it's great, yeah.
can't really
Yeah,
call it.
no.
It's
No.
not, it's
It's
based
the
off it's based on
okay.
the transitional
Yeah, I
model,
got you.
but it's expanded
Yes.
so that it's intensive, because after you complete this course, you do get into the 101 companion.
Yeah.
Intensive course. So, Oh, you had a question about the booklet,
So,
right?
yes, do you create that yourself, or is that from Advocate Center?
No, actually, that's a really good question. We don't teach to the AccuPlacer test. We give them
Please,
some,
yeah. No, absolutely. Thank you.
that's the reading. We kind of mesh together some, we use Cengage textbooks, so they've allowed us to copy information from Evergreen and Fusion. We have some writing supplements.
For you just to look at.
Yeah.
That's okay,
that's all-
that's
yeah,
all right.
That one, but I
I'd
can
be
send you
curious.
another, I
Yeah,
can
yeah.
send you one, the updated one. Anyway, we give them